In 2015, Russia entered the Syrian civil war on the side of Bashar al-Assad. Moscow deployed Wagner Group mercenaries, military instructors, warships, and aircraft. According to the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, by 2017, Russia had approximately 6,000 troops in Syria. Over the years, relentless Russian strikes turned Syrian cities into ruins. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that of September 2019, over 8,000 civilians had died in Russian bombings, including nearly 2,000 children.
Russia's primary goal, beyond supporting its ally Assad's regime, was to demonstrate strength and expand its influence. This wasn't just about the Middle East, it was a broader narrative about power, capability, cunning, and a desire to play the game of geopolitics as a major global player.
For years, Russia exploited Syrian oil and gained valuable combat experience for its soldiers. However, everything began to unravel on September 27, 2024, when armed opposition forces launched a decisive offensive against Assad's regime. Within 3 days, they captured Aleppo, Syria's second-largest city. This victory was followed by the fall of Hama and Homs, and ultimately Damascus, Syrian capital. Syria welcomed the opposition forces as liberators.
We've seen Russian Air Force activity, of course, across Syria. The daily estimate of takeoffs out of Hmeimim Air Base in Latakia is around 25 takeoffs, which puts the teams or active Russian jets in Hmeimim around 5 or 6, which is definitely not enough to respond to the collapse of the military front line for the regime across different areas of Syria.
When the opposition took control of the Syrian capital, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that Bashar al-Assad has stepped down as president and left the country. Following his flight, questions arose about the necessity of maintaining the Russian military presence and bases in Syria. Russian citizens began evacuating from the country en masse. However, according to Ukrainian intelligence, this evacuation was not an easy process for the Russian armed forces.
Some armed groups are exploiting the Russian withdrawal by using Russian flags on their convoys as cover for safe passage, particularly along the M4 highway. Meanwhile, Russian Colonel Dmitry Matrenko has been negotiating with foreign military contingents in Syria, seeking guarantees of safety for Russian troops awaiting evacuation near the T4 airfield. From the publication of the main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on Telegram.
Local residents and the opposition openly expressed their attitude toward Putin, under whose leadership Russia has spent years bombing peaceful Syrian cities alongside Assad's regime. This is how local Syrians bid farewell to the Russians on one of the country's highways. Analysts agree that the Kremlin has suffered a severe reputational blow, with the strategic significance of Russian bases in Syria diminishing. Despite massive financial investments in propping up Assad's dictatorship, Moscow is losing its influence in the region. The gamble to strengthen authoritarian rule in Syria has failed to deliver the expected returns.
Russia has lost its operational reach. It can no longer exert influence over Iraq or provide necessary military assistance to groups like Hezbollah or Hamas. Supplying arms to Central Africa has also become more complicated. Russia is being excluded from shaping the future of a greater Syria, where other players are now taking the lead. Iran has also suffered a defeat in this scenario.
Who would choose Russia as an ally if it cannot protect its partners? Experts note that Moscow's reputation as a reliable partner is under a serious threat. Its failure to defend Assad's regime in Syria underscores the Kremlin's weakness on the global stage. This could severely undermine trust in Russia in other regions, where it actively supports authoritarian and military regimes. Reported by Katerina Bastun, Mikita Skoblikov, UATV News.